Up, everybody? Welcome to the Radical Roots podcast where we dig deep to reach high. I am your co-host, Payron Baxter.
And I'm your co-host, Ram Sandoval. How y'all doing?
Sorry about that clap. That clap might have blew out some speakers there. I'm just so excited, Ron, because I feel so much better. Last time I was sick, I was like leaning on the microphone. I was like, oh my God. Still, I got the Barry White voice. So if you do enjoy these tones and vibrations coming across your speakers, you can blame a sickness that has still taking me out. But no, it is good to be back in action and talking to you. We have a few topics we're going to get to, and then we're going to introduce somebody. But we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about locally the change for Monroe and excuse me, or immigrants from Monroe and what's going on there. Our local politics, what's been happening at the statewide level. Um, the void in real organizing, what we can do, was it performative politics versus what's going on to actually organize, um, and then resistance, repression, and building the world we want with all these ice rays. Of course, folks have probably seen what's going on in LA. I think that's becoming like the titular head of this moment, and there's a reason why it's in LA. What LA represents, it's Los Angeles, and how we fight back, and then what are we trying to build? So I'm excited to get into all that, and of course I probably might have missed some things, but we'll fill that in as well. We're trying to keep it tight, keep it impactful, keep it popping for y'all because we are building something here. We're building a community, not just for us, but for y'all out there. So again, yeah, Rom, it's good to be with you, man. Do you want to bring in our third person?
Yeah, and before I do that, real quick, make sure you
Oh,
like, subscribe, follow,
like,
share,
subscribe, share,
subscribe, all that
follow.
good stuff. We are continuing to try to get the word out, and
That's right.
gotta keep it going, gotta keep it moving. We want to get to 550 subscribers on YouTube.
Come on.
We're a little close to that. Not near
Let's
five
go.
million yet, like
Come on,
Midas
y'all.
touch, but hey, we'll get there.
Each person tell your closest 1 million friends. If everybody did that, we'd be good.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and introduce.
All
Uh,
right, this man hails from the Ohioans. I don't know if he's from there specifically, originated, but I know he's recently from the Ohioans, my neighboring state from Pennsylvania. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Ron Cabuno. I hoping I'm saying that? Am I saying that correctly? I don't know if I am or not, but if not, he will correct us. But this
Yes,
brother will
sir.
be he will be joining us. As in a production standpoint. He is politically apt. He has really great commentary, and I'm so glad that he's joining our team. And I cannot be as grateful as I can to have you join us, Ron. So thank. If we're gonna call him RC here, so welcome because we got Ron, R Rom, and Pay Ron. So we are trying to give each other names. So also, if folks who are just listening can follow along. But RC, welcome to the program, brother.
welcome,
Thank you very
welcome.
much. Thank you very much. And yeah, I gladly take the nickname RC because there's no way we're gonna make it work with Rom, Pay Ron, and Ron.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
But yeah,
mm-mm.
I really, really am thankful to be sharing the mic with two fantastically knowledgeable individuals like you guys. So I'm gonna be learning right along with a lot of our listeners. So I can't wait to ask hopefully some really good questions that'll move the dialogue along.
Just don't make them dumb questions. Just don't make them dumb questions. That's all I ask.
That's
Make,
all
make
I
sure
got. Oh
make
wait,
sure
no
make
wait,
sure they're
that's I
really
don't have any of
smart. Oh, okay.
that.
Well, RC, if you don't mind, give our folks a little bit of background who you are, what you're
Sure.
about. Just tell us who you are, man.
So I'm an agnostic atheist hailing from Northeast Ohio.
Whoop whoop.
Um, I absolutely love Jesus Christ as a person, but I believe that, like anything, we can make a God out of a man even during his time on earth, as we're seeing with
Mm,
Donald Trump, right?
hello.
So I think that there's a lot to be said about embracing people from the church going into those difficult places, and I hope to be able to be an instrument for that.
Awesome, awesome. And you've done a podcast in the past, correct?
Yeah, so back in Trump 1.0, it was first
Ugh.
we did, yeah, right? That's where we actually had some no men in the room and not just a bunch of talking head drinking birds, right?
Right, right.
Lowest, the
Mm-hmm.
cacistocracy that we are currently under. But so yeah, it was nationally minded, and then I tried to go local with my second podcast. My first one, of course, as a centrist, well, old school centrist, was called Born
Right.
to be Mild.
It's relative at this
And
point.
yeah, absolutely. It's like, wait a second, I thought there was a normal that we left behind just a turn or two ago. And I'd really like to see if there was anything left. Can we just go circle the block and see what's left? Um, but then the next one was it was the Mahoning Valley Daily podcast, and that's when we had all the time in the world during the pandemic, and it was really fun putting out local content in a place that became redder throughout my life. I left the Mahoning Valley a couple times, California, Columbus, and then came back, and it was on a knife's edge because it was a working class area that, as you know, Pittsburgh, but with a little less education, so they were a little more easily swayed to the dark side, and it was
Yeah.
unfortunate time, but it was good to be part of seeing what we can do, fight against the tide.
Great. Well, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. And yeah, we got a lot. There's been a lot happening this week,
A lot
and a
going on
lot to
this week,
You
cover.
guys.
don't say.
A lot going
Payron
on.
struggled through last week's episode a little bit.
Struggle bus.
But and then Thursday, we had a lot going on, like things going on. Payron was still sick.
I was dead on Thursday. Don't call me on that Thursday, y'all. Y'all would have won. I would have been worse than I was on Sunday.
But I did I attended the Union County Public Schools Board of Education meeting.
Yeah.
To an Indivisible event, Indivisible Charlotte event, which was held in Monroe
Yep.
at East Franks this week. So got to see what was going on in the community. The Union County Public School meeting was a doozy.
Doozer.
I'm looking forward to this.
That was the most. That was one of the. That was probably the most divisive school meetings I've been to since I've been here. I've been to about 6, or at least watched 6 or 7, and it took me off. It took me for a surprise a little bit, but you had students and you had people in the community again, and myself. I did speak on behalf of immigrants in the community and keeping ICE out of school, more specifically asking that the Union County Public Schools adopt a policy that basically says it requires a judicial warrant, not a ICE warrant, administrative warrant, before allowing ICE into schools. That opens up liability as well if they let these people in the schools, whether it's the privacy of the children, whether something happens after. So for a number of reasons why they shouldn't just be opening the doors for an ICE warrant. And as you know, as everyone knows, they're just snatching up people, wrong people, administrative errors. And, the thought of that, of a kid, getting snatched out of school is scary, is traumatizing. Just the thought of it, right? So there's people who are living in fear. And that's besides the fact that some of these kids might go home and their family might be torn apart one day. And they've been here for years trying to do things the right way. These are people who are also trying to, do the right thing. They're showing up to their appointments, and then all of a sudden a new regime is in office, and they basically said overnight that it's it, you're done, we're kicking you out. No matter how long you've been here, no matter how you've been contributing to society. So it's bullshit.
Everybody knows that the place to find the worst of the worst is on the job site and at the courthouse when they're going to their regularly scheduled meeting. That's
Worst
where you
criminals.
find the worst of the worst. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
And so I think the Union County, the board, they say, well, it hasn't happened, it's not happening. Well, until it is. So they need to step up, take some leadership, and do the right thing, do the humane thing.
You did the right thing by bringing it up, because if it's preventative, then you can say we warned you ahead of time and we wanted you to put your name on the line ahead of time, saying you won't let this go down, because it's way too easy after the fact to say, well, we can't do anything now.
Yeah, and this has been brought up by the students. The students have had walkouts at Monroe High School. The students and other people in the community have spoken. Monroe for Immigrants is a group here locally, and I'm speaking and giving them allyship, right? And helping what I hear in the community and amplify that, right? And I think we need more of that. The other thing they were speaking about, there was on behalf of LGBTQ students asking for visibility. And then there was some Jewish families upset about what was posted in a yearbook at a middle school. And specifically, the line was from the river to the sea. And it was, I guess, posted anonymously. It was in a Facebook. There was a lot of uh, speakers who were very aggressive on how they came about this and basically said, well, if you're saying from river to the sea, you're asking for the eradication of the Jewish people and the Israel state. Um, and, I get that this is controversial, but to try to hijack what is also a rallying cry for Palestinians, and I would say even also, I would say that if you heard that from river to the sea, Palestine will be free, just by itself with no context, does not come across as something as violent as they've made it out to be. These people who were speaking, and anyways, so these there was a group of these Jewish speakers, and some of them were aggressive, and some of them I thought had good points. There were some events that have happened recently with the Molotov cocktail being thrown onto protesters, whatever they were protesting about. They didn't deserve to have Molotov cocktails thrown on them. Two people
No.
gunned down in D.C. At an event. The Jewish event, as I understand it, did not deserve to be gunned down. I get anti-Semitism. I get wanting to protect yours. However, they were very aggressive. It's up on, if anyone wants to see it, it's very YouTube. It's on YouTube. And then, I was kind of thrown back, taken aback at myself when they said from the river to the sea was this like you're anti-Semitic and you are you calling for the eradication of people. And there was another student speaker who spoke about the immigration and ICE in schools, and he also was speaking on behalf of Palestinians. I know him. He is allied with PSL, Palestinians who also advocate for Palestinians and Palestinians' freedom and liberation. And at the end, he said, "From Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And he turned around, and a woman from this group, as I understand it, flicked him off. He flicked her off back, and then the man he was with flicked her off. And this is a student, right? And so the administration came. One of the school safety officers, who's actually on his way, he was retiring, or doing something else, took them both out, and then an altercation ensued outside. Uh, no one was arrested, anything like that. People were still giving speeches, but this was a school board meeting, and it got very very heated. So I just think it's interesting how I feel like these people would be what I would describe as Zionists, because they basically were like saying that you can't say this phrase, no matter what what you believe, even though I get that there's conflict or disagreements about what it means, but I think that it's a term that's been hijacked, similar to like woke, for example. And then outside, some of these people were saying, well, I look at a kafaya as a KKK hood, like that's the equivalent of a KKK hood. And I was just like, that was taking me back, and they were outside saying things like DEI is not, it doesn't apply to Jews, we're not dark enough. And I was like, okay, so this is kind of what we're dealing with here. I can't take personally, I can't take those type of things seriously because, again, I can agree with some of the points they're saying, anti-Semitism, violence, but when you take it to this and then you demonize people for what is for a lot of folks or as a rallying cry for liberation of the Palestinian people, um, you know, and if you there are in Israel has more than just Jews. There's Christians, there's people of the Muslim faith. So it's kind of weird to me. It's be the same thing as if you were here in the United States saying, "Well, it's a Christian nation. I'm Christian, But if we were saying like it has to be this Christian nation, like that's the equivalent to me. And this is just my take. I try not to get into these discussions because I know how heated they can get, but I can't just kind of like sit back and like, and a lot of this I like, I've thought about it over the past few days after I heard it, right? Because I'm like, this bothers me. And so, I don't know if I'll let you guys chime in before I get to my next point, but
Well, I would just say, well, to go to the first point about the students for ICE coming into their schools and their fear about that. We have to understand that, and it's good that we're talking about what's going on, but I think our show needs to be analyzing why these things are going on
mm-hmm.
and why and what power structures these students are trying to fight, right? Because in reality, those what's the school board? 9 people? Or is it 8 people? What is it? It's an odd
It's
number, right?
nine. It's nine. Yeah.
9. So the eight of those people outside of John Kirkpatrick like that shit. They like that those students are scared. The same way they like that black students when they, Ruby Bridges and the Little Rock Nine when they were walking into schools and they were getting pelted by rocks and they said the spit was so thick that you could comb it off and it would be falling through your fingertips. Like they like that there is this fear and then there's this sense of hesitation with these students. So we have to ask why that's happening. And I'm over just blaming the elected officials because, yes, they are the ones in power. But don't forget, there's people that vote in the thousands for these people here locally. So it is the culture of Union County that wants these Latino students to be afraid, these Haitian students to be afraid, these Jamaican students to be afraid, these students who they may be DACA recipients, right? We had a JD on who was a DACA recipient, right? Like there is a mindset of I want to keep the social hegemony and hierarchy in place, and to have that, I need you to be afraid. That's where I derive my power from, because if I can keep that sort of Damocles over their heads, I can get more votes the next election. And to go to the next point about LGBTQ, it's the same thing with LGBTQ students, right? If gay students don't feel accepted, if gay teachers feel like they can't have a picture of their significant other on their desk, that works for them politically. It's politically expedient. This is the rot with inside of our culture, or dare I say, not culture, but our society, that we do not want to ever talk about. So we want to talk about the just the policies, but the policies are derivative of the people that are voting for those people in office, and what they're hearing about in their local neighborhoods, in their local bars, in their local, wherever they're hanging out. And if we're not really we're ready to talk about that, then we're not really to have the true political discussion. Because if you want to talk about politics, right, whether it be the identities, whether it be the oppression, the systems of oppression, the interlacing of it, then you're not ready to talk about the policies.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to put those things together. We have to wed those things. Then, of course, if anybody knows me on this show, the idea that Zionists are going to come up to the school board and use the power of the state to try to curtail the First Amendment rights of Americans is the problem that we're dealing with across the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are in a country that still has not labeled the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist group, but yet they're about to vote this upcoming week to make Free Palestine, just the phrase, the 2 words Free Palestine, to be anti-Semitic within Congress.
Yeah, that's insane.
So
I didn't
to your
even know that.
to your yeah, so to your point about the idea that these people are unserious and they're unwise, I'm not afraid of any of this, because at the end of the day, like someone who's fighting for liberation for all people, including my Jewish brothers and sisters, we have to understand that we have to fight for the liberation of all of us. And as Nelson Mandela once said, until Palestine is free, none of us are free.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take lessons from him. I'm not going to take lessons from Gary and Frank that walked into a podium in Union County saying, I know what's best. In reality, we're saying, again, I've seen babies that are 8 months old with no heads. So, and this is the problem with Zionism is that Zionism actually creates more anti-Semitism, because what you're saying that if me as a person who's living in North Carolina who doesn't want to see any more dead kids, if me wanting that to end makes me anti-Semitic, you're inherently saying that the murder of those children, those women, those innocent, those civilian people is a part of Judaism, which I know is not. Because guess what? On Friday, yesterday, when I was with a bunch of socialists, or not Friday, or not yesterday, but Friday, I was with a bunch of socialists. There was like a bunch of Jewish people up in there, a bunch of Palestinians up in there. So we're
Mm-hmm.
all fighting
Right.
for it. So are you trying to tell me that I'm talking to the wrong Jews? Do you want me as a non-Jewish person to stack rank Jewish people? That creates this idea that there's good Jews and bad Jews and all this other nonsense. And that's not what it is. This is a nationalistic political identity that we must fight.
Yeah,
And
and I
again, I'm listening to Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Kwame Ture, Nelson Mandela, Huey P. Newton, Angela Davis. If of all those people are a bunch of anti-Semites, but Joe Biden and Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump are on the right side, I
yeah.
can sleep well at night.
Yeah, and I think what I felt when I see it with a lot of these meetings is this rise of tribalism, especially with what's going on, and I think people start thinking about what their tribe is, and we see people pointing fingers at each other, especially the past few months. Latinos voted for this, they voted for that. White women voted for this. A lot did, but now we have to
Yeah.
start. Now we have to start being a little bit more surgical about it, right? Because we
But
can't
but but
forget
but, 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 but we can't though because
we
we have to deal with the root. We have to deal with
we
the
need
root
to
of
deal with
that.
the root, but you have to also understand that there's allies and among these percentages, right? Because me as a Black and Latino person, I know that yeah, Black people voted heavily for back actually the strongest voting block out there, right? No
That's
one's ever
right.
going to have
That's right.
that strong of a voting
That's
block,
right.
but I know that Latinos, around 50 something percent also voted for Kamala
That's
Harris.
right.
And I also know
That's
that
right.
there's a lot of different Latinos, right? So within
That's right.
that, there's
That's right.
Mexicans, and you see what's happening in Los Angeles, right? And so
That's right.
you have
That's
to
right.
start realizing that there's allyships to be repaired. And I'm not going to put the onus on any one group, but I think it takes multiple people for us to meet and realize that, like, we need to. You need to get your own. You need to get your own tribe in check too first, right? Like, so if you're Latino, like, man, start talking to your people. Like, why are you? Why what's going on? Like, this is harming us. What you're doing. If you are a white, if you're a woman, start checking your husband, check your dad, check your
What kind of
sons,
woman? Not
your
the 92
brother,
percent.
exactly.
What kind of woman? That does matter.
uh,
This is we're talking about intersectionality. This
mhm.
is I know it
I
may sound like one of those buzzwords, those woke buzzwords, but this is why it's important. This is why critical race theory and those sociological frameworks matter in this moment because we can't just do this. Well, we all need to come together. We all need to fix ourselves.
yeah,
Well, okay.
yeah,
Who are we talking about
and that's
here?
why I'm putting the onus on because you are these tribes within themselves. So if you're white, let's talk to your family because every white person I talk to, no, they all say I got a family
Not
member.
me, not me,
They say
Bucko.
my mom, my son, like all these things, and I was like, all right, well, so then that's your mission, right? And even
Right.
even for
That's right.
even for Black folks, like
Yep.
the Black women look ain't that 8%, but they're still like there's these men, and that there's some men there's always
Absolutely.
been, and I'm not saying like they have to be Democrats, but damn sure don't need to be rooting for white nationalists who don't
No.
give a damn
No.
about you. so
No.
so people need to
But
do
but
that.
but
We
the,
need to
the,
stop letting like identity like distract us from what can be our collective power. Zionism is not
mm,
Judaism. White
no.
nationalism is not patriotism, right? So let's figure it out what it really means. Because right now it's like I'm happy to speak on behalf of a lot of different causes: anti-Semitism, free
Yep.
Palestine,
That's right.
LGBTQ, trans, all like
hmm
everything. So as a
Because
humanity is
the
fight
argument
common.
the argument that we're really having is this is why I said this a few times on this show is that who can the state harm?
Hmm.
When you take that erases all the identities. But when people start getting to like, well, I don't think queer people should be able to do this. Okay, so you're saying the state should be able to discriminate against queer people. That can be weaponized against you one day.
Hmm.
Or I don't think that you should be able to say free power. Okay, so you want the state to try to squelch language. That could be used against you one day. Well, I don't think that women should have autonomy. Okay, so that's like a slave that did not have autonomy to their body. You had to work on a plantation. You did not have bodily autonomy. That can be used against you one day. So when I'm talking about rights, and I'm talking about freedom and liberation, it is within the guise of this social construct that we call the Constitution. But I'm talking about a form of knowing ourselves through a governance through people being able to be who they are without being under duress or threat of violence
I
from the
think you
state.
do have a problem though now where we are living in an extra constitutional zone
Mm,
where the proponents of white nationalism or Trumpism or anything, they don't think they're ever going to need another chance at bat. Trump
correct.
said, hey, Christians, get out there and vote. This is the last time you'll ever have to. And they believe that. They believe that they will be in power forever. So
Okay,
they're not
right.
worried about when the shoe is on the other foot. They really, and obviously you can tell from this administration, they're not thinking ahead farther than 2 days. But that's only because you have a couple really good architects, and
Mm-hmm.
then everyone else is just out there and they're the boots on the ground. So
Mm,
they don't have a working mind. They're just the lizards on the ground who are reacting to any dog whistle that they hear. But
Yeah.
to combat Project 2025, you do have to have a concise counter argument, and it has to be something that can be bought into by the intersectional coalition that you're talking about. So, like when you have somebody who is feeling like to the from the river to the sea has been co-opted, just like the American flag has been co-opted by these horrible people. Like I really
mm-hmm.
used to dig that flag; it used to really look cool to me, and now it doesn't. So like there are people who have used that for the eradication of Jews. And just like messaging can be the problem when we say we want to defund the police, I believe that we do have to revert funds to have social workers on the scene. But in terms of messaging, in terms of taglines, if it's not working for you, if it's promoting violence, then maybe it is worth finding a different avenue, especially if you want to have that intersectional coalition.
Yeah, well, then, and we'll talk about that because I mean, the messaging is one thing. I don't remember who it was this week that said, "I don't think it's the messaging. I think it's the communication. It's the message. Like, what is the message?" But
Yeah,
one thing.
lack thereof a message.
Yeah, right. And so I'll talk about that for sure. In part of this, I have quite a bit to say about that in the clip. And one thing I will say is, is we talk about a lot of these things. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Right. When we talk about white folks, we talk about when people talk about men. Right, men are trash. They don't. I don't
That's
I don't
right.
take offense. They're not talking about
Right.
me.
Right.
And all of these things. So
A hit dog will holler.
right, but you're not gonna call me an anti-Semitic for saying free Palestine because I
That's
don't
right.
like to watch it, witness a genocide. Fuck that. You're not going to
Right.
or characterize me that way. So moving on a little bit. Also, in Union County, there was. I'm gonna keep these quick because I just wanted to touch on this real quick. But there was gun violence last week. A
Yeah.
couple
Mm-hmm.
incidents that learned of Nevaeh Carter, who was a
Mm.
Monroe High School student. She unfortunately got shot in a
Street corner
drive-by.
once marked by a
Mean to, but the it's unfortunate. And then we talked about last week where there was a Monroe police officer shot. And that person was we
A
actually
model student.
talked quite a bit about it. But this person, Alvin Parsons, he was a father, and let's see if I got a clip up in the background here, but he was a father. Um, he was, and we didn't know much about him last week, and this clip doesn't want to play. So, but anyways, we had speculation that the shooter was white purely off of the fact that people in the community were saying he was a good kid and people knew him, and it just took me back, right? And so he was I gotta get these sounds down.
Okay,
Very
Ron.
funky.
This is why we need. This is why we needed RC because Ron
I'll
trying to
bring in a
talk.
set of hands. Oh, that was good.
He's trying to talk and do this stuff at the same time, folks. And it's okay. But it's okay. But this is why the team is growing. This is why we are expanding. But no, it's
But so we found out it was a whole series of really unfortunate events, right?
Yeah,
right.
so
Yeah.
the killer who he was the brother of this man's
Girlfriend.
girlfriend, yeah, and so the mother of his daughter, and it's just very unfortunate. So he shot this person, and then he got pulled over by the Union County Police, and he was
Hours later,
yes, and
randomly. Yeah.
Right. Right.
he shot the cop. He did not just shoot at the cop. He actually shot the cop. She was released later this week, or later the week in the week. They thankfully, and this is the father. This is his mother. But yeah, it's a very tragic situation. And then then you got the shooter. Um, yeah, I be watching Don Lemon too. He's got a full production team and it's
I
very.
know. I hear him
But,
behind the scenes.
but this is
But
him.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is and this is the danger. When we talk about the danger of existing while black and like dating while, I mean, we have driving while black and dating while black, and this is a long history too of vigilante, to a degree, vigilante violence. Now it's also intracommunal violence. It's also, you kill who you're around. You kill because of reasons of jealousy or anger or derision. But we also know that there's sentencing that for when a white person kills a black person is usually dramatically less, or if a black person kills a white person, it's usually dramatically higher. And
Mhm.
these are the structural racial components that we are fighting against, because again, when you have two standards, you have no standard. And that's the problem that's always been America's hypocrisy, is that there is no set standard within inside the Constitution. It's just that it depends on who you are, it depends on who's your judge. And of course, I'm always against the loss of any life. But I am also understanding that this is a very violent country. We have to be very honest here, folks, that America is a fundamentally and foundationally violent country.
Yeah.
And until we can wrap our heads around that, we're going to keep trying to reinvent the wheel with these, superfluous ideas of like, oh, we just, did this, or we just got, better trained cops, or if we
Or
just blah
give
blah blah
everyone
blah.
a gun. Put a gun in
You
the
give everybody a gun,
give the
right?
teacher a gun. Yeah, let's give the students a gun.
Give the janitor a gun,
Look,
right? Give the
I
principal a gun,
I
right?
hate gun violence for a multitude of reasons. I
Who
mean, who
loves gun
doesn't?
violence though?
I
I
mean,
mean,
there are
right?
some people. There are people
That's like
that
one of those like
I
infalsifiable things. Like
there's people
I hate
who
air.
there's people itching to pull the trigger, itching.
Big
That's
fan of
right.
the A's.
They
Just
would
Right,
loving
they
it.
exactly.
want some. There's people out there that want somebody to test them because they want to shoot somebody. There are bloodthirsty people, especially in this
That's right.
country.
That's right.
So and it's unfortunately that's the reality. It's why I own guns, and I don't even like guns, but like I'd be damned if.
All your daughters strapped. All your daughters strapped, huh?
But like, look, I hate gun violence, but I think that a lot of these people who were saying, and this is speculation because based off of what things I see in the past, and maybe I'll go out and find it, but the same people who were saying he was a good kid are probably the same people who now see who this person was that was killed by him, saying, well, what did he do? Well,
Absolutely,
why
no
did
question.
did he deserve it? And he starts second guessing, right? And that's how it goes because he's black.
Well, we're always blamed for our own murders. That's a tale as old as time. What did you do? I mean, I read the book The Trees by Percival Everett right here, and it's a story about Emmett Till.
Mm.
And they're rehashing back then of like how many times the conversation came up that what did he do to have two grown men shoot him to death and tie barbed wire around his neck and tie that to the engine of a boat and then also rip off his testicles.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and then you
Two
find
grown
out that
men.
all it really takes is word of mouth, like a couple days later. Like it
That's
doesn't
right.
take seeing or understanding or witnessing anything.
That's
It
right.
just takes having that animus in you and having the fuel to then set
That's
it
why we're
off.
in
And
the
then and
situation
on
we're in
top of that,
today. Mhm.
but the cherry on top though is then to have the backing of the state, because
Well,
both of
that's
them
where I'm getting at. Like,
got
and that's
off
what
scot
Ron, that's what
free.
you were getting at. Because, like, I fucking have always hated these people who cosplay with the tattered American flag and this and that, and everybody's pretending you're in the military, even when you're not. And then when you're in the military and you get home, you pretend you never left. Like
Right.
that flag is not supposed to be brown. That flag's not supposed to be tattered. It's supposed to have all the colors in it if you are not in active duty, and you are supposed to be amongst your citizens as a citizen. But now you could see that they're being rewarded for being as violent and as hateful as possible because they have a guy at the top who wants them as their foot soldiers. So they're basically now being called into active duty from the video game that's been playing in their head their whole life.
Well, I think they call that LARPing, right? Live action
It
role
is.
playing, right? They're LARPing. I mean, we're seeing this across the. I mean, but it's not just the folks in the camo and the fatigues. It's the folks in the boardrooms and the
Mhm.
folks who are in the city councils and the. But it's all they're all LARPing in this faux patriotism, and they want us all to be engendered. But in reality, and I think Ron, you sent me this clip a couple days ago of Daniel Moody. But the idea of like it's time for us to reject their narrative that they're trying to create. They want us to fall in line with their white Christian nationalist viewpoint of everybody. And again, this is not knocking people that believe themselves to be white or Christian people, but what it means is they're trying to have a supremacy system where that if you are engendered to those two positions, then you are then privileged. Everybody else must be subservient.
Yep.
And that's America has never been a white country. It's never been a Christian country. It's never been a place where only white people have existed. So
But
we
the
have to be
backlash is
honest about it.
coming. The backlash is coming because like as we try to become more and more pluralistic, they were using the most far out and, let's say, abnormal examples to go against the status quo and scare the people off. So like this has to be a country for everybody, and we have to somehow let people know that the 1% of whatever that makes them feel the most uncomfortable is never coming to their door.
You're
Like you're going to be
you're
able to
mad at
live
the
your damn life.
you're mad at the wrong 1%, as I always say. You know, they got you mad at the trans
Absolutely.
community. The real 1% are those billionaires.
Yeah.
You mad? Ain't no trans person taking your job. Ain't no immigrant taking your job in your boardroom. Ain't no black person taking whatever.
But
Right. So
yeah, but
your real issue are the billionaires who are suppressing your wages, keep you from health care, keeping your schools to be funded, so they can privatize and then segregate. Like these again. This is the power of the state. I keep going back to who can the state harm? When you start putting your idea of because like what's the point of elections? Elections are not about yes winning political wins, but they're about rights and resources. Those two things. And when you start to put it into that framework, people can understand that more than just like, oh, whatever their Fox News tells them or whatever they seeing on their algorithm. Because I'm saying, okay, but does that matter? Will that get your potholes filled? Will that make the trains run on time? Will that make your dollar go further this year than it did last year? And if the answer is no, then sir or ma'am, you are distracted.
yeah. And yeah, it's ingrained in this country, and it's a lot
This
of
is why I don't
figuring
give a
out.
fuck.
Like
That's why I'm gonna keep
like
speaking up.
exactly. I mean, what else are we gonna do? I mean, like
Whatever.
just because
People be like, that's too much. Can you not? It's too.
yeah.
Look, we are at a time. We're almost dealing with in our country mass arrested development. Folks have only it's a bunch of little boys. Elon, we're gonna get into the Elon Musk Trump stuff, but like the on full display. These are children
Yeah.
who are the two of the most powerful people. And we're sitting here saying, okay, but you got to go to work, you got to pay taxes. We are being ruled by this is a cacistocracy. This is idiocracy. And
And
until we can say this is not normal and we can reject that and create our own narrative,
yeah. And
that's on us.
they're using identity as wedges, and for those that are
Because they
asleep
don't have
because they're
one.
asleep, then they're winning that because they're easily fooled. But yeah, let me move on a little bit. Try to get quickly through a couple of these
Yeah,
other
yeah.
topics because
We're doing good. We're doing good, y'all. We're
I
doing
do have a
good.
few things to say. Yeah, we're cooking. So yeah, also like I said, I went to the Indivisible Charlotte meetup in Monroe. And I think they have the No Kings event that's coming up next or it's on this upcoming
The
Saturday.
14th. Yeah.
It's on
Um,
douchebag's birthday, right?
It is. It's my beautiful birthday. It's also the day that we're going to be celebrating the military.
Did you happen to see the trains full of tanks coming into Washington, D.C. this morning?
Oh, Kim Jong Un will be so
Yeah,
proud.
fairly disturbing. I mean, it is just blowing my mind
I,
what's going on right now. It's like The Sims.
I was telling Ram about this. I'm a little. I don't know if it's going to really happen because I mean I'm sure you all both been to DC, But like one, the streets are shitty and terrible. And the last time they tried this during his first administration, they put one tank on the street and like
Yeah.
it cracked immediately. So
Well,
you
they
can put
said
a,
they were going to have reinforcing plates put down, but they also had this
oh, okay.
bullshit estimate that it was only going to cost them $16 million
I
in damages after the fact. I'm like,
feel.
why don't you times that by 1,000, and then you're probably going to be close. There's going to be 50 helicopters. There's going to be
Oh
like,
yeah.
seriously, if there could
Fucking
just be
Rambo's gonna be
one
there.
leaking catheter, it would make
Yeah.
it for me. But like, could we just have everybody not watch it? Or where is like George Soros? Can he put up like a big George Burns thing that will block it
Right.
out? No one can
Right.
see it. Like,
Blots it out.
let's get some fun, creative answers here.
Where are the good billionaires at right now? We need them to step up.
Swear to God.
But yeah, so but I did have a few observations there. It was it's as a lot of these things are these political organizing. It's heavier on women, uh, heavier on in the older folks, and pretty much almost all white. And Indivisible, I think in Charlotte, when it's the events are in Charlotte, I think it's a little more diverse, but not much there. But one thing I also noticed was that that this movement, the Indivisibles leading, obviously they're one of the main organizers around the No Kings, and I think that the visibility is important. I think that protesting is important. But and they, like I said, they feel a little. It felt like a little bit like a parade. The first one we went to, hands off, and we reported from there. But I think and this is where Danielle Moody, she said that she actually quoted Audre Lorde, but feel that we are defining ourselves by what we don't want. Right? It's not just enough to be fighting against. So Indivisible is one group, and that might be their mission. I know it's not, because they actually have a plan, but it's also, that plan is also centered around anti-Trump. So
Right.
it's not
They were but like they were born out of anti-Trump though. Like, they
right,
were born during
exactly,
the
and
first
that's
administration.
I said that's one thing, but like the Democrats, that's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable to be just against Trump, right? So what are we?
No.
What are we actually for? And I think. Um, we have to figure that part out, and I don't know if I'm not going to put the onus on Indivisible. Like I said, I think that there's certain lanes. However, all of these groups, none of them have like a very these larger groups, and especially the Democrats. I do put the blame on them. But it's just it's a gap, right? And I think we have to address that. So, but
Well,
I think that
it was good that
I
they were here in Monroe, in Union County, because I don't think they have been. And we need to get some of this movement going. We need to
I
build
mean,
coalitions,
the
bring young
leader of
people, things
Indivisible
like that.
Charlotte is, I mean, she works in Union County. I mean, they need to do more here. I mean, that's not a call out, that's a call up.
Yeah,
And
and
people
none of
got to
this.
be honest about it.
Yeah, yeah,
and I think that they are receptive to taking on any messaging that is growing organically, throughout the country. So they're,
yeah, and
it's
not to
No
just
Kings now,
yeah,
but they're a vehicle who are definitely going to be friendly to whatever is at the top of the ticket.
yeah, and not to just put the onus on them again, because the reason why that they're getting a lot of traction is because a lot of folks, regular folks, they immediately are like anti-Trump to everything that's happening. But we have to turn this whole anti-Trump into actually something that we're ultimately building, because it has to be something that we're building, because they're tearing it all down. So
Right. So, real quick, if you did this in a vacuum, you could say to yourself, all right, what do we want to do to make a society? And then you could blow past MAGA as if it never existed. And that way you aren't focused on what they are doing wrong. You're just focused on what you can provide that would be right.
yeah,
Right.
Right.
but yeah,
But and I
mhm.
think that's the problem with the with even focusing in the rhetoric on like the taco stuff. It's like it's making it about Trump, and rather than Trump is a symptom of the larger problem that what you're talking about, RC. That like we have to that we're not even trying to imagine a vision. We're just trying to get under his skin. And like yes, like for the news cycle, our 24-hour news cycle, yeah, sure, get under his skin for the day. But like I'm almost tired of hearing about taco Trump. Like that, like we can't keep like using that shit because we're not. saying who we are. We're not saying who those of us who oppose Trump or who want to. I said I was at a party last night and I told someone who had he knows I'm in political work. I said we have to have the courage to imagine a better future,
Mhm.
and we just have to have that. Like because right now it's easy to just want to be petty. I mean, look, I'm a petty king like my other two kings on this call right now, but we have.
There isn't enough of it for us to wallow into my satisfaction right now, but I agree. This is not about relishing in somebody else's demise, although
Right.
the demise of the ideas is very important.
Correct. And this is where having an affirmative platform and an affirmative vision where all of us are at the table. I think I brought up that my first meeting as the Democratic Party chair of Union County, I said, are we reasonable people? And everybody was like, yeah, we're reasonable. And I'm like, well, I don't see. I said, well, to be reasonable, you must have everybody at the table, everybody's input for a better idea of where we want to go as a community. And if I only see one group of people here, then I don't think we can be reasonable.
Mhm.
And then,
Perfect. Can I
and like,
ask you a question?
yeah, yeah.
As being having your previous post is super important to being able to answer this. Where do you go to meet people to talk about politics? Like, because it's either going to be in a group of like-minded individuals, or it's always going to feel like the wrong venue.
I found out, and I found this out because again, I'd never been a chair before prior to April 2023. But I found this out on my latter half of my tenure that you have to go like wherever the zeitgeist is, wherever the voice of the people are, wherever they're at, right? And then you start talking about politics. You don't try to say, "Come to me." If you don't come to me, what's wrong with all these people? And that's kind of the problem with the Democratic Party writ large, where it's kind of like, well, they're not here. What's wrong with those people? And then we try to kind of reverse engineer our own issues versus going to where the people are and then giving them the vehicle to take reins and actually take power to then feel empowered to then change their circumstances. So to answer your question, where I went near my latter half, and then where I go now is to where the young people are, where the black people are, where the Latino people are, where the queer people are, and sometimes they converge into different events, and then we talk about issues and structures and histories and books, and then be able to say, okay, this is who we are. We're fighting these systems which we know are bad, capitalism, white supremacy, the carceral system, school to prison pipeline, you name it. But we want to have a society where you do have access to these things. You do, and then you build that power by identifying leadership and you empower them and you. So that is, I think, the way. But it takes
And
a
it's
little.
always one-on-one, right?
No, no,
No.
not
Or for the
necessarily.
most part.
No.
Not necessarily. It could be
Okay.
group settings, but I think what you get out of that is you get this idea that people they start to get into the mindset of I'm now dreaming, I'm now thinking, I'm now you know what, I am just a person, but said 7 billion people. I am just one guy said 7 billion people, and then they start to realize that I'm actually more interconnected with you and that person, and we actually are all sharing the same goals because we all want to have the basic foundations of clothing, food, medicine, and shelter, right?
Mhm.
So like when we start talking about the basics and why we're not getting those things with whether you're black, the black groups, Latino groups, whether it be the NAACP, Change for Monroe, PSL, Democratic Party, you name it. And they start to bring those people together because you show that you have one, not only just the mindset, but you have the passion,
Yeah.
you have the direction, you have the dedication to say, I'm fighting for people who I do not know, and I'm fighting for people who I may never meet. And that changes the whole political calculus that we're not just saying that, oh, yes, because of course I care about black people as a black man. No question, right? That's my community. But I also understand that and when black people get free, honey, all of us are free. And that is one thing I take with me across wherever I meet
Yeah.
folks.
And one thing, and it was funny because we had JD on a couple weeks ago. He joked about
Not
the
JD
six.
Vance,
No, not JD Vance. JD in Charlotte. He joked
not the
about
couch guy.
he joked about the 6 o'clock happy hour events, and why aren't these people here? But like I said, Indivisible has its own lane. It's for Indivisible, but again, this is kind of that similar thing. But one thing we got to do is keep. I'm going to bring things back into perspective, right? Because
That's right.
you know we're talking about 95%. We're talking about 5%. I mean, 3 to 5% of Americans are actually doing the political organizing and out there protesting. So where's
That's
the
right.
other 95%? Because we say like,
That's what I'm
because
saying.
we say like, where's why like we would JD was saying, well, why aren't Democrats coming to the community, coming to where we're at? but at the same time, you're also talking about some volunteer, right? So you're talking about a Payron, the former Union County Democratic chair, who's using his free time. You're talking about the current Democratic chair, Jen, just who's doing it in their free time. Talking about Indivisible doing it in their free. Well, I think Indivisible does have some funding, but like
Yeah.
all these people are most of these people who are out here, like, and they're just trying to help and figure it out, right? And so I think a lot of these groups have to show people the way. And I think if we, people get uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable, go in there talking to people, inspiring people, and those type of things. But I think that so that some of that is on it's got to be infectious. It's got to be also like you talking to your family or you talking to whomever to say like, come to this event, or hey, maybe we should go talk to someplace and spread this word, right?
I want to say this real quick, Rom, because it's to your point. That like it's got to be like for the love of the game. You know what I mean? It's got to be like for the love of like why you're doing it. Like it's
Right.
got to be you got to be passionate about this shit. Just a really quick tangential story.
Hmm.
Um, Yesterday was my frat brother's 40th surprise birthday party. Went there. And everybody that knew me from Payron from 10, 15, 20 years ago, they're like, "Oh, P, we missed the crazy Payron, the drunk Payron, blah blah." But they also know, based on social media, based on my activism work, the current Payron to a degree or to a modicum of who I am. So they're asking me questions about Trump and where we're at, blah blah blah. And I find myself going down my my usual shticks my rhetorical shticks, and this blowing their mind. They're like, man, blah blah. And the whole time I'm like, Liz, my wife, is like tired of all this shit. She's like, okay, dude, we get it. We get it. And to the point of like, you gotta love this shit. You gotta love this shit to the point someone else is fucking tired of that shit. Like that's how much you like to change people's minds and to prove like again, I can always sleep well at night because I always know that like I laid it all on the fucking field. Like
Hmm.
there was
And
no
she
love.
could give your spiel to him
She
for
could give
you
my spiel correct,
Hmm.
exactly. She's like,
verbatim.
oh, he's about to say, oh, because we all got to come together, blah blah blah. But like that, you
Your
can't
beliefs
just
right there.
like you can't do it just for the title. You can't do it for the accolades. You got to do the shit again for people you will never meet. You know, the shade under a tree that you will never sit. That is what this work is for. And one thing I learned as the chair is that the one thing you cannot manufacture is will. And so to your point, Ron, where's the other 95% of people? There is a one thing about America that it offers us is this idea of individualism, and we don't have this collective care for one another. This is
Right.
what I mean the one thing they say about any sort of policy or federal law or protection that we have that will make it almost impenetrable to being taken away is if you make it universal.
Hmm.
Like the concept of even Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act at the time, what they were trying to, try and label it Obamacare and then say you're going to have death panels, the biggest lie of 2009 or 2010, whatever the case may be. Like this is the shit they were doing, right? But once it became kind of close to universal, people are like, I like this Affordable Care Act shit. So the more we have, universality of serving people. And this is what we saw during COVID. And I think this is what helped radicalize a lot of people towards Trump. Was COVID was because we saw the government actually doing affirmative things for people, right? The child tax credit. We had, some stimmy checks out
Yeah.
there. We had some PPP stuff. So people
Hmm.
saw, we had a student loan forbearance and forgiveness. This was the government actually working for the people. And people are like, I like this. But then what happened? Unfortunately, under Joe Biden, it got taken away because of the Joe Manchin, the Kirsten Cinemas, and the moderates who want to means test shit. And then what happened? People are like, well, what the fuck? I like the government, or I like those aspects of it. And once again, it was because it was the closest we got to universality. So the more we can get to talking about you deserve more, Mr. Republican voter. You deserve more, Mr. Disaffected Democrat who I sat out the 2024 election. I'm a part of the 90 million that didn't vote. You deserve better. But
Yeah.
we're talking about trans this, or we're talking about whatever nonsense to be distracted and saying you deserve better.
Hmm.
When you have an argument that says you deserve better and the state should not harm you as you deserve better, is a compelling argument for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I think that there's and I think there's a large segment of people that just don't care. Like, there's about 33% of the country but one of the reasons that a lot of those folks don't care is because it doesn't matter who's in power.
That's right.
So, and a lot of it is just, they're making ends meet, they're hardworking, and that $2,000 additional taxes, it's still hard for them. So I don't think that they have time to really pay attention to the no kings, right? Like to the fascism that's coming along, or to the law habeas corpus is disappear, like all of those type of things doesn't really matter to them. And I think, but with that being said, what's happening in this administration is actually going to have some effects in a lot of different ways that people aren't
That's right.
prepared for. But with that being said, for me, and kind of going back to feeling passionate about these things, the reason why I was out there knocking near about 1,000 doors for Harris and other Democrats in the areas, because I didn't want to be fighting the rest of my life. Right, I really felt in my heart that I would be fighting the rest of my life for my kids' future, for my future, if she did not win. I probably am. That's probably why I have a podcast now with, 34 episodes with you, Peyron, because I this might be the fight for the rest of my life in some way or another. It might not always
That's
look
right.
this comfortable.
You were
Um,
radicalized.
yeah, I listened to you. I was radicalized, but that's the infectious thing. That's what we have to continue to spread and get people to
That's
understand.
right.
To get your people into the streets, to get your people in the
That's right.
community, and for the people that are in these spaces that have been organizing, like, or have been involved in the things, like y'all are great, all y'all, right? You're trying to do better. You're trying to figure it out. And I mentioned this on like our first episode. I said I think we're all gonna have to step it up a notch, right? So if
That's
you were
right.
doing that, now you got to do it. You got to be in the protest. You got to be in the street. You're older. You got to might actually be on the front lines, because they're gonna not, if you're older or white, they're gonna treat you a certain way, and you're retired. A misdemeanor on your record is not so bad, right? So, but if you were just a voter, maybe now it's time to be out into your community, be a precinct chair, or maybe go to one of these events, right? So like everyone's got to step it up a notch, and again, kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if they like when people are out at these no kings for next week, if it turned into something where ICE showed up, or California, if it looked like California, like just kind of ask yourself, like, what would you do? Would you just go home and say, this isn't what I signed up for? Or would you
Many
continue
people
to
watch the
stand out
civil rights.
there and just put your
Right,
body on the line, put yourself in between a thing, somebody, like,
right
go
here.
ahead. Hmm.
This is Homeland Security's address in Charlotte. Right here, the board behind me.
Mm.
Because that is where we should be doing protests.
That's right.
Hmm.
That is where we should be, right in front of them, saying, "Excuse me, but our local and our local law enforcement agencies should not be collaborating with you. They should not be taking citizens out of our communities, and then we have no local recourse because you're coming under
Hmm.
here in cloak and dagger. And now you want to have anybody showing up to these protests wearing a mask now a criminal, when all of your guys is from the national departments are coming in here with like hooded bandits, dude. It is, wow,
Well, it goes
So
back to,
it's rich.
it goes back to the history, I think, of like civil disobedience in this country. Like during the civil rights era, and I know there's clearly protests before that. There was garment strikes and labor strikes, but I'm just using ones from my community. Like the marches were a vehicle, right? The marches were like the point wasn't we're going to come together to march. They were going to march down to the mayor's office or to the police department, and we're gonna occupy it, or we're going to talk to the mayor, or we're going to talk to the whoever, right? Or we're going to talk to the principal who's trying to segregate the school. Like the protest was a vehicle, but now the protest has become the spectacle,
Mm.
especially for people who are not built for this, and some motherfuckers ain't even built for this. And that's the problem is like, so they're just looking at these pictures and images like, well, maybe we can just come together and just in March and all have different signs and hands off. And it's like, well, there is no unity because you have no demands.
Mm.
Yeah, because there are means without an end.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, and I would, and I'm gonna transition this nicely. And one thing I
All right.
just want to
Segue,
say,
segue
I
King.
do want to
Come
say,
on, King.
like, so a lot of us in that room, in the Indivisible, myself, all of us have some sort of privilege. We all have. I say everyone has, like,
That's
most
right.
people, and I don't say like everyone, but a lot of people going through some shit. But
Yeah.
use your privilege is not a shield. Like, use it as a tool, right? So
Right.
that's what I want people to do, and use it for others, and not just yourself. Like
What I always
that's
say is
powerful.
is take that privilege Like use your privilege to destroy that privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So as a man, it's incumbent upon me to talk to men about patriarchy and all this shit. It's not me telling a woman, "Hey, I'm against patriarchy." No one gives a shit. It's like whenever a white person tells me I'm against racism. I don't give a fuck if you're against race. Go tell that shit to a white person.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Yeah.
tell that shit to me. I don't give a damn. Like when Joe Biden went and spoke with Mother AME Church about like the perils of white supremacy, and the whole church clapped. I'm like, he needs to go to a white church and talk about that, not go talk to folks where non-black parishioners. It doesn't matter. That
Yeah,
is
they already
that
know
that
that.
that's the idea of power dynamics and power imbalances. We're talking about systemic change. It's who has the power, who doesn't have the power.
Yeah. And again, kind of going back to the demands thing, I think I'm going to go ahead and just play this Danielle Moody clip. He's with uh, was it Jared?
Jerry Yank
Jared
Sexton, my
Yank Sex.
boy, my
Yeah.
boy.
So, and I will definitely watch them because I watched I listened to their show twice this week. They do a collaboration like once or twice a week. Like it was kind of also like a mental health check in. And I like listening to Danny Moody occasionally, but when they were talking this week, I was like, I sent you the clip. I'm like, look, this is what we've been talking about. They say things a lot more eloquently than I do, so I'm gonna let them speak. Hey, Ron, you can keep up with them, but I'm gonna go ahead and play the clip.
No, brother.
Going back to one of the, many of the famous quotes from Audre Lorde, the one that says, if I don't define myself for myself, then I get crushed into other people's fantasies of me and eaten alive. And I keep thinking about the ways in which white nationalism has always tried to define who we are, right, as a people. And I mean that collectively. One, who Black people are and should be, but also who white people are and should be, and have tried to formulate this world, right, that is devoid of reality, but also of responsibility. And that you can spend a lifetime fighting against and actually not building towards, right? And that is part of when Toni Morrison would say that racism is the distraction, right? Is that then all you're doing is enthralled in the things that they want you to be, as opposed to in building what it is that you want. And that's why I say it isn't delusional to see that there is great opportunity inside of the destruction that is happening now, right? That if you don't look at this moment and say, well, now I'm surrounded by all the things I don't want. Now I'm ingesting all of the things that I've never wanted to, right? What is it that I actually do want? Because what white nationalism and the delusion of white supremacy tries to tell us is that their power is inevitable.
That's
right? And that and what MAGA has said over and over again is that it is inevitable, and all that's left for us to do is comply, right, or be crushed. And I think that we have this opportunity that is extraordinary in this moment to decide we don't want their vision. Right? So if we don't want their vision and a collection of us doesn't want their vision, then what vision do we want? Because we're told that equity and justice is a utopia. But the founders were told that a government for and by the people was impossible because it had never been done before.
So yeah, I just wanted to play that clip.
She's right, man. It's what I said earlier. We have to have the courage to imagine. We have to have the courage to dream at this point. A lot of us do not. A lot of us are stuck in the rat race of what's Trump tweeting, what's Trump, bleeding out, what's his most recent Truth Social, what's his
But is
most
it
recent.
not cathartic to indulge in that to a certain degree? Like to keep your sanity, do you not have to be able to poke fun at something that
Yeah,
makes
Hey
you want
man,
to cry every day?
hey, we were sitting in Texas with popcorn, when Trump and Elon were
Yeah.
fighting.
for sure.
And I
Yeah,
think,
but
and
but
you the
the
same
thing
way
is, you can't.
you know Kings. That's the thing that brings them in. But then what?
It has to
You,
be a part of a balanced breakfast. I totally agree.
Mhm.
but
Like it
it's a
can't be all
junk
dessert.
breakfast now though. It's a junk diet.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like this. this brief period of what do they call it? Serotonin, what makes you
It's
happy.
Schadenfreude. That's
Yeah,
what it
like
is.
when you watch
Schadenfreude.
because when you're on when you're looking at social media, like that's just it's like a drug. And just looking at all these things, I used to just doom scroll, right, and it was just depressing. I mean, even keeping up with all this shit with the executive orders, he has these 100 executive orders, like that shit was depressing. I keep up with it, but it was depressing. I mean, I keep up with stuff now. It's not you know why it's not depressing to me now? Not in the same way. Is because I have an outlet. I have this outlet because I
Yeah.
know that I'm out working with 3 different organizations trying to figure out what the future looks like to build that future to protect what we have today, right? And so that's my hope. I feel like I am building and working towards something. Seeing these things that are going on, that I'm taking this information that I'm intaking and actually creating a strategy around it. So I can't just and I think right now with Democrats, I'm disillusioned with the Democrats at the national level, right? Because there is damn, I thought, hey, they're gonna be a platform, there's gonna be some like unity, some people speaking out on like, hey, this is what's leaders, some sort of leaders emerging. There's no leaders. It's even worse than it.
The
It's
entire
worse now than it
caucus
was
should
before.
be
When Payron was asking 3 months
together.
ago, I thought we had more leadership then than we do now, right? Or Democrats do now. So, I, anyways, I'm gonna
No,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, RC. You about to say something?
Well, they're saying great words in the houses of Congress. It's just not making it out into the general populace. Um,
Like what? What's your examples you got?
well, I mean, you got Jasmine, everybody who's coming in, and like, I swear to God, I started following 20 new people from Congress that I had never heard of just in the past couple of months because of the way they're speaking up against all these acts. I'm like, this is great, but like, it never makes it to the next level. It never
Yeah.
makes it to the national news and then the zeitgeist to where you can start elevating some of these people. Unfortunately, they do have to become brands that then more and more people can then start using as a trusted resource. It's like you do have to play the game of
It's the inside game, outside game, right?
right, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
working both, right? I mean, AOC talks about that a lot, the inside game, outside game. But at
we
the
thought
same,
Obama was going to change it from the inside.
right, if we just, give him the power, and then he comes to be one of the, the hallmark for neoliberalism. Now
Right,
he's more symbolic than he was substantive as it relates to the structures that people were yearning for hope and change.
correct.
But with that, I think it's also like, to your point, just a handful. It's a handful of people out of 2 bodies of Congress. We have a lot of performative things, and I get it. People are like, well, you need performance, you need spectacle to get the attention. But like one of the biggest things, and I know this is not on our docket, but just a quick aside, is the idea that like when Cory Booker did his 25-hour speech, and then, that motivated me, that inspired me as well. I love to hear that. But then is it T minus 30 days, and now we're hearing that he has a book deal for a book called Stand. It's like, bro, you should have used that damn power to actively, galvanize the base to say this is what we're fighting against. But no, he's still missing, votes on crypto. He's voting for Jared Kushner's dad. It's like it's almost exposing yourself. It's almost exposing the swamp of what it is. And it's like,
It's the
and this is what we say. What people are saying, like the Democrats and the Republicans are similar on the most foundational and important issues. That is why
Politics makes the strange bedfellows, right?
it
I mean, like
does.
if you're up there in New Jersey, guess what? You got Democrats and Republicans who are mad about state and local tax. And then you're
Small
going to
tax,
find
yeah.
yourself on the same side of a bill with somebody you never thought you would. It happens that way from time to time.
But the
well,
thing is, but now we're in a moment of a crisis.
yeah.
So even if that is the status quo, that is unacceptable. And we can't be
Oh, you
like,
have
oh,
to submarine any piece of legislation they put forth. Absolutely.
right. So we have, and this is why in our previous episodes I talked about having the Democratic Party being a captured opposition, because what that means is the captured opposition, they never have enough votes to pass the shit that the people want, but they always have enough votes to help the Republicans pass whatever they want. There's always enough 2 or 3 senators breaking off. There's a
Yeah.
few Congress people breaking off, just enough to get it over the edge. The most violent, repressive bills. It's like, well, what the hell? But you don't have it. But the parliamentarian, I didn't hear that shit with the Republicans, and I know it's currently with the parliamentarian. But the point is, it's like those are not impediments on their end. Because the one thing I will give the Republican organization, because they're not a political party, they are a dime storefront for a white Christian nationalist organization. But the one thing I will give the Republican Party that they do well is that when they have power, they wield it.
Mm.
When they
Oh, yeah.
have power, they wield it. And when the
It's burning
Democrats
a hole
power,
in their pocket
oh
the
my
minute
God,
they
yeah.
win the election.
That's
Yeah.
right. Democrats, when we get power, it's I don't know. We got a means tested. I don't know. We got a Joe Manchin. We got someone over here. We got the parliamentarian. I don't know.
So
Is it
yeah, they're really good at playing the special interest games, and you can always get a couple of really shaky Democrats to pop off and say, "Yeah, we do. My richest constituents do need this," but then because of the homogeny on the other side, you can never
correct?
get them to come over to what are essentially popular, bills and incentives and what have you.
That's right. And I think this is why I always say that, I said this, I think on our last episode that like people don't want to admit this, but honestly, Donald Trump and MAGA are actually closer to what the founding fathers wanted. Right? They only wanted white, wealthy, land-owning men to be able to vote, hold power. Because we gotta remember back in the day, you did not vote for governors. They were appointed by Congress. Congress was all wealthy, white, land-owning men. Women were not in the Constitution. Black people were three-fifths a person. Indigenous people were to be exterminated. So I know it sounds irritating when I say that to people, when they're like, "No, the founding fathers, they're turning in the grave." Like, well, are they? Are they?
No, I mean
They'd
landed
be fucking
gentry. That's what we're talking about.
they'd be pissed off to hear about me and Rom just talking freely about this fucking country. Like, what? How dare you? So like,
Are they doing it from a jail cell? Like,
but as Henry as Henry or as John Henry Clark said, but like for us as black people, this is why it's very important for us to have a global perspective that like, yes, my ancestors were enslaved, but those ancestors came from people who were not enslaved. Because when you think that your history starts in chains in slavery, everything is progress.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. Everything is not. This whole thing is made. All these rules are made up. All these systems are made up. The idea there's a presidency, two houses of Congress, all the state lines. All
it's
this
the
shit is
same
made
thing
up.
we're going to deal with when Trump hopefully finally leaves office and we get maybe some kind of environmental regulations back. What you're talking about is just finally getting back up to level, getting up to
Right,
zero,
right,
getting up to
exactly.
Not even zero.
equitable.
That barely.
Get to
Yeah.
zero.
So I don't know who it was said like, yeah, the founding fathers. The only thing they'd be mad at, they'd be like, oh, billionaires getting power doing this. The only thing they'd be mad at is that he's abusing the system. He's breaking their system they built.
Barely, and barely that. Like George Washington was the richest person in America when he became president.
But they
So
were
we're talking
definitely worried about consolidation and usurping of power from the other three branches. I mean, separation of power was it's not like it's just maybe it kind of worked because in and amongst these gentlemen of the country, they figured that they wouldn't have an asshole rise to power who was able to subjugate all the other supposed learned men of the country. This would throw them for such a loop, I believe, even
mm,
though it is in
There,
possibly the vision that they might have
here's
set
the
forth
no. What you
subconsciously.
got to understand is they this is temporary. The Supreme Court and Congress, their goal is the ultimate. Like even when the Congress is in place, the Congress doesn't matter right now. Like the
yeah,
courts,
they're a rubber stamp.
right? They're already like they've already
Correct.
rubber stamped everything. Like all they need is to get
They've been
some
ineffectual
full
for 3
control.
decades.
The Supreme
Right.
Court, but if Democrats have no control, they can continue to maintain that three branches. Anyways, I'm trying to move us.
I
A
mean,
little bit.
Obama had all three branches. Joe Biden had all three branches. So, like, again, captured opposition. That's all I'm gonna say.
And he should have
Um,
used that power as soon as the Supreme Court gave him presidential immunity. He should have jailed Trump, pulled the
No
ladder up on
question.
his way out, and then we'd have been fine because he could have rewritten the Constitution with all this
Right then.
wield the
bullshit
power.
right
Wield the
Right
now.
then.
power. What do we have? What was his name? The Attorney General that pussyfooted the whole 4 years.
Oh,
Merrick
Merrick
Garland.
Garland.
Yeah.
Oh, the worst choice in history
I
because
told
like
you,
you had
I
him on a
blame him for
silver
so much.
platter.
That's right.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
so I'm going to switch it up a little bit, try to move us forward. Great conversation, by the way. I'm loving it. If you're listening, like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff. Also, you can email us at info@radicalroots.us. You have some good ideas. You want to hop on, say something.
We're going to try to do
have
a
questions
mailbag.
for us. Yeah, something.
Try to do a mailbag
Try to be
episode
more interactive
end of the
too.
month.
I haven't checked the chat in a while tonight, but yeah, there's look like a lot going on. But anyways, so there was a movie that came out. So I like to see what's streaming every Friday. So what's streaming this? What's new tonight? What should I stream this weekend? Yeah, I think is my Google.
What's
search.
hot?
And I came
What's
across.
hot on the? Are you Netflix and chilling, Rom? Are you Netflix and chilling?
I'm a Netflix, and so
Does Rose know when she hears the doom? Oh, here goes Rom. Here he go with his bullshit. Is that what's going on?
Well, so I said, hey, there's a Tyler Perry movie. Because
Tyler Perry.
She said Tyler Perry. I was like, yeah, like so Tyler Perry's like for me, not really my cup of tea. Like he's not, but it was Taraji, and the storyline sounded kind of cool, and so I said, I'm not gonna watch it tonight, but I don't know, I'll throw it on in the background, and so
Background noise.
I woke up early Saturday morning. I threw it on, but here's the synopsis. It's a raw portrayal of a Black mother battling eviction, police brutality, and child welfare threats before noon. It's a lot. It's over the top, but
because it's Tyler Perry. It's over
happened
top.
at the beginning, but in the beginning,
how are the wigs? I just want to know how are the wigs, because his wig game is always.
Well, I think Tiana had a good. So Tiana Taylor's in it.
Tiana Taylor. That's
right. So first off, I'm gonna play the trailer so people can see it. But I'm gonna give Tyler Perry his flowers. Man. That movie surprised me. I ended up watching it in the morning. I cried. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I had tears coming down my eyes because it was powerful.
I cry all the time.
That movie. I did not expect it. I'm gonna play the clip first, and then we can
chat Sinbad
about it. Yeah, it did have Sinbad in it.
Sinbad? Oh shit.
Okay.
They said he was dead.
I didn't mean to do this. Something inside of me broke. I told them I need my money to get my daughter's medicine. She's sick. I just need to cash my check, that's all. No! Please, come on out. I just want to do what's right for my baby. Lock the door. Tell them close the blinds. We need to figure this out. I don't want you to get hurt. I got put out today. We have nowhere to live. That man robbed me. I need it for my daughter. You want to kill me? You want to blame me for robbing this bank, and I didn't do it? You can't help me. Nobody ever helped me. This is bad, Janaya. This is not your average bank robbery. This is about giving her a chance. It seems like you had a lot to get over today.
Yeah, so that was
not your average Tyler Perry.
Not your average Tyler Perry. Not like Medea. Is Medea in it? And she's coming like, I want to deposit my check.
No,
I want to deposit my wire transfer.
And here's the thing. And so she goes it was a lot and to pack in, but I guarantee a number of these things happen to individuals.
That's right.
These things align in the worst ways at times, whether it's medical bills, feeding your children, paying rent. Those are things. Those are realities, right? This is not just something that's a fiction for millions of people, right? This is like, granted, they're not like all these things don't align in the way that it's portrayed in this movie, but the underlying issues and things that go through are. And this isn't just people aren't just working. This isn't just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's people who work Saturdays, Sundays, evenings, double shifts, two jobs. And so this is what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of privilege that we have here. Like, right, there's a lot of privilege in these organizing events, and we're talking about our privacy is being violated because they gave access to Doge to our social security numbers. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem for privileged folks, right? Like, it's a problem for everyone, but like at the end of the day, like, what does it what does it affect
Yeah.
somebody trying to make ends meet, right?
But I believe we can walk and chew gum, right?
Oh,
We
absolutely.
can keep all of those in our head
Weak,
simultaneously and fight
but
back against them
a
all.
lot of people, that's my point, is like a lot of people
Yeah,
just don't, they live in this world of like forgetting about the other people, right? And so like when we're in
the
these
least of
communities,
us.
like even in this thing, I use this Indivisible in Monroe as an example. That's happened this week. But again, Monroe is 30% Hispanic, 20% Black. And I'm not saying that the Indivisible is supposed to be invited, like have all these people here. I'm just saying that like people have to get out, like outside of their community into the next community. They have to get outside of their collective identity community and be allies with the other communities into these coalitions, right? Because if we're just in these places and we're asking from a privileged position of like, well, why aren't these type of people here, or why aren't these people here? um that's the type of thing that I'm saying that we need to figure out, right? Because these are real issues, and this is the type of stuff that's like, we're
Well,
talking about survival and
let
desperation. That's going to be coming down the pipeline pretty hard.
well, this is why when we talk about classism
Mhm.
and folks are like, oh, let's talk about the class war, the rich versus the poor. But again, you cannot extrapolate race from that
Right.
because when I tell people that, they're like, oh, yes, we can. I wasn't privileged parent. I was born poor. I grew up in a double wide too.
Hmm.
And I always try to tell them the way I can prove to you that you cannot extrapolate class from race is because I can guarantee you, whatever podunk town you're from is a poor white person. Ask a poor black person from that town what they had to overcome. And sometimes that might be you. That might be your racist. That might be your racist daddy. That might be, the racist police that will shoot them and kill them and they can't get jobs the same way. Right? So race and class are always inextricable because again, this country was built on anti-blackness, that the concept, the creation of whiteness was to be not black. So
Sure, and you put those two same people side by side, then the white person literally has no idea that the person standing next to them has that other layer of adversity that they have to get through. And it really just it does not occur to them. And like you're
and that's a
saying,
privilege.
we
That's a
came from the same
privilege.
exactly because they've never been put upon to that degree.
Right. Right.
But I
And
did
that's the
want to
issue.
say that movie gave me
John
um
Q. John Q.
like like falling down,
Oh,
Michael
falling down.
Douglas
Michael Douglas.
vibes. Like I was like, oh my goodness, but then also mad Dog Day Afternoon vibes.
Oh, okay.
Um,
The bank, yep, the bank heist.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So like, just thinking about how many people are one
One
bad
paycheck away,
car,
one issue.
yeah, yeah, one
Yep.
issue away, and whatever it may be.
But I was going to add to the point, to your point of it falling down, as we talk about class and race, right? Like think about the movie Falling Down. Michael Douglas's character. Think about it. Hit the archetype of that character in that movie. He's the guy. The world's changing. There's that one scene where he's like walking down the street, and it's all the quote unquote, what neoliberals would consider to be the outshoots, or what would be considered. Well, there's like a queer person and a black person, a Latino person. It's like
Freaking
he's
them
like,
out.
and he's like this freaking. He's like, where's my place? Black people don't think that way. We're
Uh-uh.
not like, oh, my place in America is not here because we know that this country is not built for us. But the structural things that squash us are the inability to pay for your dog's medication or for your son's heart surgery in John Q. Right. So tying the healthcare system to not be able to get access with a low paying job, 7.25 an hour, tying that to the minimum wage, tying that to being able to not be able to join a union. All of these things are the structural things that we're talking about, right? That we say, hey, guess what? If they do better, then all of our wages can go up higher, right? So, like, this is when we're talking about who should the state harm. I go back to that. That is the rights and the resources. That's why Falling Down and John Q are two different things. That's why Straw is probably more akin to the John Q because
Oh
again,
yeah, absolutely.
but I understand your point though with the Michael Douglas stuff, but also or with the Falling Down. But what I looked at was structurally. Structurally is that again, who will the state believe? When I'm upset, crying on the street, will the state shoot me for crying on the street? But if I'm a white dude, they'll say, okay, we need to go send somebody out there. We're not going to gun him down like they did that guy. I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago. There was a autistic black boy who was playing with a train, I believe, and his caretaker came to him and he said, and the police drew a gun on him. And the guy said, "Hey, I'm just his caretaker," and they shot him anyway. The guy then said, "Why did you shoot me?" And the cop said, "I don't know." So that never would have happened.
Charles Kinsey.
Yeah, too many. I mean,
What was the name again, Ron?
Charles Kinsey. He's alive.
Charles
I'm pretty
Kinsey.
sure he's still
Oh yeah,
alive.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah. No,
survived.
yeah, he wasn't killed, but that story sticks with me. That
white
like,
shooters get taken into custody.
oh, and could take it to Burger King, like Dylan
That's
Roof.
the point. Yeah.
So, but this is what we're talking about of how we're trying to pull this shit apart and why it's important for us to have these conversations because again, and we can't do no more. We can't audition our humanity anymore as a people who are the only group of people in this country that didn't ask to come here. Everybody else got asked to come here, or they were already here. We're
No,
the
but
only
if we get our chance and if we get out the other end of this, to your point earlier, we are going to tax our way out of this. Like the solution on the other end is going to be a classist battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Tax the fucking rich.
that is the utopia
That's
that
right.
we are working towards, hopefully, as a coalition.
That's
and
right.
really just like lifting all boats. Like I think I heard that it went from 300 to 1500 billionaires or some
Yes.
crazy number
Yes.
like that. And it really was staggering to think there's that many people that have $1 billion. But
a lot
You're just a stupid plebe like me, man. You're not a billionaire. You're not a billionaire.
I'm not. My
good
eyes
guy.
are not on the prize. Sir.
What's
I'm
wrong
sorry.
with you, RC?
Yeah.
Why are you not a billionaire yet?
A lot of politicians
showed.
a lot of politicians have a wait and see mentality right now, right? Like because they're the economic impacts. They're like, well, the economic impacts will hit them, and then they'll.
Well,
come
it's
back.
hard to rail against the 1% when the 1% is also lining your coffers.
And regulating your speech online.
There's people who are not even beneficiary, like politicians who aren't even beneficiaries of that, like who and regular folks are just like, oh well, they'll come back to the Democratic Party because they're gonna get hit, economically. But that's not leadership. That's not building something. That's not doing what this moment calls for, which is breaking down these barriers and figuring out how to build a coalition that helps educate the people of like what's really happening, right? Because right now, a lot of it comes down to education, right? Because people are living in ignorance, and that's how they're able to fool and pull the wool over people's eyes. Is hey, this is these people are taking your jobs and like
we're in a moment where it's like where the Democratic Party believes that leadership says what is popular, and that is not true. Leadership is not saying what's popular. Leadership is not saying what's popular. Leadership is saying what is important and making that popular.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so many leaders that are unwilling to do that. That's why we have one party that is a fascist party and one party that is an unprincipled party. We have no principles at this moment. And you can read that. And one thing about, I give it to Trump and them, they are authentic. They are authentically racist. They are authentically bigots. They are authentically sexist. They are authentically homophobic. But the other side is just kind of like, which way is the wind blowing? Okay, and people can read that shit. And that's not Payron making. You guys both know that's true. Like I'm not like that's not like me. Oh, I'm ruining the Democratic Party. I want the Democratic Party to be better. And if they're not willing to be better because they're trying to means test or poll test or do a survey, you're not going to get there.
I think that it's a lot has to do with complacency, though, right? Because a lot as a white guy who gets to sit and enjoy the privileges of America on a daily basis, right? You never are preparing. You're never codifying the rights in peace times when you should be, right?
Right.
Like, because then when you have that, what did the lady call it? The disaster capitalism or whatever you call it, where you're just taking advantage of bad situations. That's when you
Naomi
cannot.
Klein?
Naomi Klein, yeah, she's fantastic, right?
Yeah, the shock doctrine.
Yeah, so I mean, like, where are we? bringing up the bulwarks and the buttresses in the easy times and in the doldrums. Well, we weren't, because we thought that that stuff was going to live
People get
forever.
comfortable.
And yes, because comfortability is what we were all after. And so when a certain segment of us got it, we said, all right, time to go on cruise control.
That's right.
Because hey, maybe somebody else, it looked over there like they were making progress. And when I say they, it could be blacks, could be gays, could be anybody. So it just seemed like everything was chugging along in this pseudo progressive way. And so if you're a centrist, you believe that that type of stuff is the inevitable trajectory. And then these types of things come and they show you that it's not. And you always have to be working towards it and to keep it and to make it better.
Yeah. You know, it's
The price of freedom is forever vigilance, as Ida B. Wells said, right? That's the price of freedom, is to be forever vigilant.
Yep. And it's time to get real fucking comfortable being real fucking uncomfortable. That's where we're at.
Rum. Watch that mouth, bad boy. Whoa, we're gonna bleep that out.
So there's a lot
Where's
of
our 7-second delay?
there's a lot of things that have been that's going on in California.
Yes, let's end with this. Let's end with this story here.
Past 3 days. First off, in San Diego, I think it was about a week ago. People literally walked out of a fancy restaurant and into the streets to resist ICE. So you know, that's using your privilege. Like, imagine being in a nice restaurant, enjoying your food, and then they come in and do a nice raid, right? And they immediately took to the streets.
That's right.
I have a quick clip here.
We need more of that shit. I love it.
California is weird in its own way, man. It's kind of cool.
Angry crowds clashed with ICE agents after they raided a restaurant in San Diego as part of an investigation into whether it was knowingly employing undocumented immigrants.
Now pause it real quick. Pause it.
The ICE agents deployed flashbang devices.
Now, I'm sure they're arresting the business owners for hiring them.
You stole my
right?
line. You stole my line.
They gotta be.
This must be footage of them going after the proprietor. That's
gotta be, right? Gotta be arresting them motherfuckers, right?
Oh my God.
Right, Ron?
They supposedly, but I don't think they arrested they didn't arrest any.
Supposedly, they say that.
That was the investigation. That's the
supposedly
investigation.
that's in this video.
Yeah.
Where they're saying and they're also
we'll
chasing
follow up
down.
with that. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 99% sure that the owners and the people did not get arrested. So.
Oh damn!
Now, quickly, because this is a restaurant, I do want to mention that Trump Bedminster got a health score in the 30s.
Ooh, delicious.
So I mean, you're better off eating a bowl of roaches.
Yeah, or a bowl of mush.
Well, I mean, a roach's nothing but just a land shrimp. So let's just keep that real.
Delicacy in some countries.
At the restaurant, as some community members, upset with their presence, surrounded their vehicles. ICE Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin told CNN that the officers took appropriate action and followed their training to prioritize safety.
Get inside, get inside, get inside, get inside.
Agents first received a tip that alleged the restaurant was knowingly employing undocumented immigrants in 2020, according to a search warrant obtained by CNN. Another tip was received in January 2025. ICE says their investigation found that 19 of the employees had fraudulent green cards, which is nearly half of all the employees at the restaurant, the search warrant shows. The affidavit said 7 of those employees did not.
So, yeah, but they went straight to the streets. These people was like resisting right in the streets. They started gas flashbangs, gas grenades, whatever. Similar happened in Minnesota, and then in the past couple of days,
it's getting worse. And then there was that story of the graduation, and there was helicopters in the sky, and parents were fleeing in California, to the point where they left their kids because who brings their birth certificates and their papers to the kids' graduation? This is an ongoing problem, and currently, LA, I think the Secretary Brillcream, just a doppel do you, Pete Hegseth, the Christian warrior, is sending the military or the National Guard or Trump
The
was
Marines.
the Marines. Thank you.
Yeah, so the
Um,
National Guard was already deployed, and then the Marines was supposed to be,
there you
the
go. Yep.
straw that you would never, the bridge you would never cross, and here we are.
Here we are. And folks still want to act like, oh, it's all normal. This is not normal. Kent State could tell you it's not a good time to roll out the National Guard to civilian matters like this. I mean, that's the point of the National Guard, actually. But I'm saying, but like in the heightened state of hysteria that we're in as a country.
And it's
But
been since Ruby Bridges in, what was it, 65,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that, the National Guard was brought in against the will of the governor of that state.
right, right.
And this is for all the wrong reasons, where
All the
that was
wrong
for all the
reasons.
right ones.
Right. But again, it just shows that our country has never dealt with its foundational sin of race. All those things are all extremely steeped within the idea that there's a certain way things should go, and if you go against that, you must be under the heel of the state. And this is why I keep going back to who can the state harm? Can the state harm
But we
people
have
who are not
never seen
citizens?
this, right? It was a lot more subversive.
We did, but
it,
Black Lives Matter in 2020.
That's right.
They were
That's
out there.
right.
They
The
had the
National
National
Guard
I
Guard,
is the
guess
is the
throughout
but
right.
like all the Clinton administration, for instance, right? You don't see the state coming out onto the streets.
I'm sure if we did a Google, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have my Google box.
So yeah, so 1992. So first off, LA is always
A Watts, that's right.
keep
Yeah, that's
kept
right.
it.
Yep.
I feel like that the National Guard probably was out there. So I'm not
They
saying that
were.
they
They
don't.
were.
I'm
And now
not
that you
saying
say
that
that,
they're
yes,
not
they were.
deployed, but I know when they weren't deployed, it was when there was an insurrection,
January 6th.
January
Yeah.
6th. So
Very
yeah,
good.
I
Very good.
mean, look,
That's right.
it. It actually didn't have national media attention yesterday, and I do think that there was. MSNBC. I was watching. I turned on MSNBC to see what they were covering about it today, and they were out there, and the reporters like, yeah, the National Guard's here, and yes, there's like thousands of people, and yes, they're protesting, and yes, they're have an aggressive message, and da da da. They're testing the national, but it's not any. It hasn't been physically violent. It hasn't been. So I do think that there was, and I saw like some clips yesterday of individuals, throwing rocks at these cars driving by. But
Yep.
overall,
Get people metal.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was a riot, but yeah, yeah. I actually
Look, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this on our show. It could be just a payroll thing, and that's fine. Like if you pull up, and jump out of a car, a Hyundai Sonata. What's one of the cars they got a rock thrown at it? You pull up in a Hyundai Sonata, not a cop car, nothing identical, and you taking me from you. Hold on, you taking me from my daughter. I'm fighting you.
yeah,
I'm fighting you.
you're telling me
Like there's no.
they're doing is illegal. What they're doing is illegal. So you're saying that, yeah, both illegal.
But what I'm saying is like what I've been calling for. I'm like these people need to start snatching off these fucking masks. Like
Yeah.
we've already seen some of their tattoos. They got 3%er tattoos or these white nationalist tattoos. One guy on the back of his elbow.
Mhm.
I mean, so like like at the end of the day, like if you're taking me from my kid, and I understand, and I do understand, like some of these immigrants, like they're like I just don't want to be deported from my child. So I think if I just kind of go along with the flow, hopefully I can get legal redress and be able to get out of this. But I'm like, we're at a point where it's like, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I mean, again, a cop, someone pulling up to me, and I don't know who you are. You have your, ICE agents that they're wearing now. They're putting pens in their pockets so it's covering up the name part. All because that's the point of our legal system is that we don't are supposedly our officers should not have to wear masks because if they're not breaking your civil rights, you should be able to have legal redress if they do break your civil rights, and they know that they're intentionally breaking those rights of people because guess what, immigrants also get due process under the law, hence habeas corpus, all those things, but they want this spectacle, and this is why I'm so irritated and so angry about people who just want to do performative shit right now, because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to put your body in front of the line for these people, especially if you have even a modicum of privilege,
Mhm.
a modicum of privilege, I don't want to hear about the sign you've painted. I don't want to hear about, whatever, the shit you got going on because and then you got cops working with them. You got most of these ICE motherfuckers, like they're washed out cops.
Yeah.
They couldn't make it through the police academy. So like we're at a point where like, again, I'm not saying, oh, go out there and shoot these people. But what I'm saying is like, yo, defend yourself. Defend yourself, defend your children, whatever that case may be, because this is what they want. And I don't see how allowing a bunch of little green men, like we like to talk about in Russia and Ukraine, to like what's happening here, just like happened under Trump 1.0 during 2020 when people were being picked up in unmarked vans in New York City and in Boston, and we just kind of turned a blind eye because it was an election season.
Yeah,
But like this is not okay.
yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and finger wag, and I'm not gonna be the arbiter of what's right, what's wrong, because first off, on day one, this president pardoned 1,500 insurrectionists who actually attacked
Come on. Come on.
Capitol Police and actually caused what, 3 or 4 deaths. So
Like 5 deaths total. 5 total.
yeah. So that's the thing about the law. Like when you start deciding that which laws you want to follow and which ones you don't, so do the people, right? And
You don't have law. You don't have law then.
Yeah,
You know
so-
what I said earlier, when you have a double standard, that means you have no standard.
Yeah, remember when they used to say that we're the party of law and order? They don't even say that anymore. Like,
Well, that was always a dog whistle. That's dog whistle politics. They're saying we're the party of law and order for these Negroes.
yeah,
Richard Nixon created that. That was a dog whistle for the Southern strategy. We're going to
Well,
keep.
law and order, the Overton window always moves, right? So we are the party of the laws that we are currently enforcing and the order that we see fit,
yeah. And
right?
we also have to be honest, like with ourselves. Like we think that the law enforcement, where you're in Chicago, you're in some what
Blue
do they call
City.
it? Not even blue. What do they call it?
Sanctuary City?
Thank you. And you're in Los Angeles or you're in Chicago, they're not gonna like stop ICE. I think the LA County Sheriff and the LAPD were saying that they were doing crowd control and they weren't assisting ICE. At best, that's what you're gonna get. But when shit, if shit hits the fan for real, it's all one side. And the LA County Sheriff is one of the most known to be one of the most white supremacist infiltrated.
Yeah, gangs.
They actually have gangs inside of the LA County Sheriff, right? So
That's right.
It's there's no one that's coming to save us. I mean, they follow order, like these groups follow orders. National Guards, the thing about the National Guard is that a lot of National Guard is full of regular people. However, so maybe, but at the end of the day, they're following orders, and they're going to be all of these law enforcement agencies are light on the protect, and they're heavy on the serving the state, right? So there's no one coming to save us, like, right? And like you think that they're going to get in the way, they're not. So and this is, remember, Newsom called all of this Kilmar Garcia
Distraction.
a distraction, right?
Mhm,
And now look at
mhm.
him. He's saying Trump is doing this because he's trying to create more of a spectacle. But how many more distractions will we allow before we call it what it is? Fascism. And was in slow motion, and now it keeps
It's
on
here.
coming. I
But the
don't know
thing
how
is,
much
it's
more you
always
need to
been
see.
here. It's
It
always
has
been
it
here.
has always been
So
here.
these guys are out there with guns, roaming the streets, thinking that they own everything.
Mhm.
You, every one of our listeners' lives are more important than to go do something stupid and get mown down by one of these idiots. Like, make the most of your life. Reach out to 500 people before you go try to pick a fight with a cop. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
the point is, do it as smartly and as impactfully as possible, because we are only given one precious trip around, and
Mhm.
it really does it can't be wasted going to their level or
No.
trying to meet them in the gutter like that.
Well, I think what I'm saying though is that, like, unfortunately for us and our Latino brothers and sisters, it shit rolls up on you. It's not that you
No,
roll.
I
It's
understand
not
that.
that you roll up on it. It's like they roll up on you, and then what?
And so, like you see in Los Angeles, strength is in numbers.
That's right.
There was actually
That's right.
clip I wanted to actually. I think I have it. So let me pull this up real quick because
And then when you
this
can't
is today.
rely on the Constitution to fall back on as a moral authority, there is a moral certainty to a lot of these decisions that, with or without some kind of codified document, we know right from wrong, and you can always appeal to that.
I mean, the Constitution has never been my North Star, nor has it been for a lot of us, right? I mean,
No, but in terms of that and the Magna
right.
Carta, and in terms of like codifying the rights of the individuals throughout the course of history, it is important, and they were steps forward.
Yeah, so to both of your points, like, so this is today. This is after the National Guard came, and all these people came out there, and they're out there protesting peacefully. But this is the type of collective, allyship that you need. Like, this is, everyone needs to hit the streets. So you can't say that these, that you can't put on TV that this one person, these two people who were violent, was the entire, like, everyone that was
But the
out there.
but I guess the
You need
problem
to
is
back these people up, and I'm not, like, again, I'm not saying but
yeah.
what I am saying is that if this is to your point, Ron, like, you need to be prepared to go out there and show solidarity, and to
That's
back
right.
these people up, and to give people the numbers so that they can't overcome and start escalating the situation, right? Because who's going to escalate that, right? When you escalate that, then people are going to get killed, and
Yeah.
I think that's an escalation that no one is prepared for or wants.
I guess what I guess my broader point is that there's always a negotiation for this. There's always a negotiation, and the negotiation that we're accepting is that some of the most vulnerable people in our communities must be hurt first.
Yeah, real quick, I'm
And
gonna
that's
put.
and that's a sad thing that, like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm like.
And they're
That's my
able to
broader point.
negotiate for themselves most of the time. So that's puts them at a structural disadvantage.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm gonna play this clip. Um, they talked to
Since we last checked in with you?
Yeah, we are seeing definitely more people coming up to the skirmish line here, but I did want to introduce you to Daniel. Why don't you come over here with me? Leslie had asked earlier if I could talk to you and the people around here, and Daniel was putting a sign up, so I thought I'd ask him if he talked to us. Daniel, you told me you got caught up in the tear gas as well. Describe what happened to you.
Oh, just tasted a little tear gas. Tasted like fascism.
What brought you out here today to protest?
There you go.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Get him off. Get him off. Get him off.
Okay.
Get him off the screen.
Right. Cut. We are in a democracy that is the best in the world. How dare he?
Yeah, Shane. They were trying to find skirt. I mean, look, they were look. What I am saying is that they took an opportunity to, because you see that the Cash Patel and Don Bongino, whatever, the one where the man was chucking rocks, like, he had a good arm and good form. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him." They were using
his name is Elon Musk. I've been writing it everywhere. Like, that guy's name is Elon Musk.
But they were using
That's
that
his
as, like,
name.
oh, that National Guard. I think Trump his what he said specifically in his statement today was something about they spit, so we hit. Look, this is the ego. They don't want to
Okay.
see anything where they don't want to see any weaknesses. So I'm not encouraging it, but I have no problem.
This whole
with
thing
it.
is weakness.
But
This whole thing that we're witnessing, this whole moment in time is weakness. And I know we're about to wrap up, but this is my final part. I'm going to end here, but it's just that, um, well, as I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. What we're witnessing is the death rattle of white supremacy, right? And that's what all these powers they're trying to use and change the culture in the textbooks is. They know people are unwilling to accept what Daniel Moody and Jared just said on that clip. They're unwilling to accept this singular narrative of the future of this country. Or excuse me, they know we are unwilling to accept that narrative, I should say, excuse me. And with that, the thing that is assured after the death rattle and these race cries, the thing that is assured after the death rattle is death. And that's what we're witnessing right now is the end of this ideology, the end of this hierarchy. And as long as we stay strong and continue to keep punching the stone, it'll eventually crack. It'll eventually break. But we must be standing in solidarity, uniformity, and in compassion and love and empathy for one another. Because again, all they have is the state. And I know that sounds crazy. It's the most powerful nation in the world. All they got is the state.
Yeah.
All they got is those documents. Well, what we got is each other.
Yeah, I think what you said, call it the white supremacy's last breath, and I think this is the
Death rattle. Death rattle.
Death rattle. Hey, this is the fork in the road, people. So I say to you, what are you going to do? Union County Dems. What are you going to do? Indivisible. What are you going to do? Change for Monroe. What are you going to do? Monroe for immigrants. What are you going to do? Radical Roots. Right. What are you going to do? Regular fucking privileged person with their head up their ass. What are you going to do? If you're
you got a twofer. Got a twofer, Ron.
You're that MAGA moron, and it starts to hit you. What are you going to do? Right. And we got to ask ourselves and regular people, what are you building? Right. And not just defending the status quo. Who wants to fight for survival? Right.
No.
And so what discomfort are you willing to embrace? And what a real thing are you leading? Right. And so, if you're not building the world that you want, then you're surviving in the one that's killing us. And
heard that. I would like to add to that.
I will let me just I'm gonna finish. The innovators, creators, we talked about this. Everyone has their own skills and talents, right? Calling all the hard workers, calling the privileged, calling lawyers, marketers, business executives, doctors, laborers, tech folks, producers, everything and everyone, right? So that you can inspire and give people something real to follow, right? And something that feels good to be a part of, where we're part of not only resisting but building, right? And it's time to get real fucking comfortable being uncomfortable. It makes some good trouble too. Go ahead.
That's right.
So yeah, I just would love to say that this is all about having uncomfortable conversations in the present, but keeping an eye on that tomorrow. Because like Reconstruction happened, and there were some folks who didn't own land, and they still had to live in a reconstructed world the day after. And how do you bring these people into the fold? And so like each difficult conversation you have now that aren't with somebody who totally agrees with you is going to be one more avenue or one more perspective you have on what they might be looking at in the hereafter. And so I know it's not important, because those people, especially if they're on the Trump side, are basically just, they could care less if you have any rights ever again.
Bingo.
But we have to be bigger than that. And then if we do end up in those uncomfortable situations, like maybe see them as a person and find out where they might fit in when they have to bow down and be nice.
Yeah. So
like
I've never not seen them as pest people. I'll say that they've never seen me as a person. That's the problem. And they've been able to, even though they're getting exploited, just like people 600,000 people died in the Civil War, lots of them didn't own enslaved people. They were fighting for the idea and the social status and that social currency that W.B. Du Bois talks about. And that is what the same thing they're fighting for now. I mean, some folks say we went through Reconstruction after the Civil War, then there's a second Reconstruction during the Civil Rights era. And some people say we're going through a third Reconstruction, but I think that we're in the midst of actually the second Civil War. And that's not going to look like North versus South. It's going to look markedly different. And it's probably not, and we know the Civil War didn't even last as long as the Chalupa or Outkast albums. So we know that as my mom always tells me, nothing lasts forever, including MAGA.
Yeah, well,
so we're gonna be all right.
This was a good one. I appreciate.
This was good.
And
welcome, RC.
I got one more. No, I'm just kidding. I will say, we didn't get a chance to talk about Trump and Elon and their little billionaire breakup. Right. But you know what? I'm kind of glad, because I really didn't think it's worth talking about wasting this good of an episode. But I will say, you want to bring a Rokana, like wanting to bring him back Elon. Please don't do that. Please don't embrace Elon. Elon is a terror. He's a literal terrorist. He literally literally hacked our entire government infrastructure. He just took our data. He killed off he's killed millions of people indirectly.
Before he was terrorist, he was just an opportunist.
So do not think that don't do it. Anyways,
And
His
you want
money
me,
is so good there.
and you want me to embrace someone who did 2 Nazi salutes? I'm good.
no,
I'm good, player.
and you talk about
Like like
Israel
that's the lowest common
anti-Semitism.
barrier. Like that's the lowest common denominator, and that's where we're talking about having a principled stance.
Yeah.
Like if your money spends so good that you could do Nazi salutes and I accept you, as someone who's fighting for liberation, I will never sit aside with that person. And a lot of people in the Democratic Party never will. But Ro Khanna, shame on you. Andrew Yang, shame on you. And anybody else thinks that there's space for Nazi sympathizers and apartheid sympathizers, shame on you.
True colors were shown.
That's right.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're still listening, again, share, follow, like, all that good stuff on all the social media. Email us info@radicalroots.us. If you want to get involved locally, hit us up. We're doing a lot of things local. But yeah, we appreciate everyone listening.
RC, welcome again, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see y'all on the next. We'll see y'all on Thursday. As long as I'm not sick, I should be good by then.
All right. Take care.
All right, be good. Peace.